Deep in the Theban hills, nestled on the west bank of the Nile, lies a site unlike any other in Egypt. This is Deir el Medina. It is a place that holds the secrets of ordinary people who lived extraordinary lives. For nearly 400 years, this village housed the master craftsmen of the New Kingdom. These were the artisans, the stonemasons, the painters who constructed and decorated the magnificent royal tombs. They worked in the Valley of the Kings and the Valley of the Queens. Their hands shaped the eternal resting places of pharaohs like Tutankhamun and Rameses the Great. They called their village Set Mat, meaning the place of truth. This ancient community existed from roughly 1550 to 1070 BC, through the 18th dynasty, 19th dynasty and 20th dynasty. It was a purpose-built settlement, established by the pharaohs to house the elite workforce responsible for their afterlife preparations. The location was deliberately isolated, hidden away in a natural amphitheatre of rock. This seclusion was intended to protect the secrets of the royal necropolis. The men who lived here possessed skills of immense value. Their knowledge of tomb construction and decoration was a state secret. The village itself was therefore carefully guarded and managed directly by the vizier, the pharaoh's highest official, ensuring its inhabitants remained separate from the wider population of Thebes. The story of Deir el Medina does not end with the decline of the New Kingdom and the abandonment of the royal necropolis. Centuries later, during the Christian era, the village found a new purpose. Its small temple, originally dedicated to the goddess Hathor and the deified pharaoh Amenhotep I, was transformed. It became a Coptic Christian church and later a monastery. This monastery was dedicated to Saint Isidorus the Martyr. It is from this later chapter of its history that the site derives its modern Arabic name, Deir el Medina, which translates to Monastery of the City. In this documentary, we will journey back in time. We will explore the dusty streets and silent houses of this remarkable village. We will uncover the daily lives, the beliefs and the struggles of the people who lived here. We will not be focusing on the grand pharaohs or the monumental temples that dominate our popular image of ancient Egypt. Instead, we will delve into the lives of the individuals who made it all possible. Join me as we peel back the layers of sand and time to reveal the intimate and detailed world of Deir el Medina, a community that has left us an unparalleled legacy of its existence. What makes Deir el Medina so exceptionally important is the sheer volume of information its inhabitants left behind. Unlike any other settlement from the ancient world, this village provides us with a continuous documented account of community life. This record spans almost 400 years. It is a treasure trove of written material preserved by the dry desert climate. The artisans of Deir el Medina were highly literate. They recorded everything. They wrote on countless fragments of pottery and flakes of limestone known as ostraca and on papyrus. These texts were the notepads and official records of their time, capturing the minutiae of their existence in stunning detail. We have records of their work rosters, wages and rations from the state. We can read their private letters about family quarrels, friendships and anxieties. Legal documents reveal how they resolved disputes, arguments over property, accusations of theft. We can study religious beliefs through hymns and prayers, and even read about medical concerns and remedies they used. This immense archive allows us to reconstruct the social fabric of the community with clarity. The archaeological remains of the village perfectly complement this textual evidence. Excavations unearthed the entire settlement, over 70 houses, a central street, and a protective wall. We can walk through the floor plans of their homes, see the ovens used to bake their bread, and identify small household chapels. The village had its own cemetery with decorated tombs that mimic royal tombs on a smaller scale. This combination of ruins and text provides a uniquely holistic view of life. French archaeologist Bernard Bruyère began excavating the site in 1922. For decades, he and his team uncovered the village, its tombs, and the great rubbish pits where thousands of ostraca were discarded. His work produced one of the most thoroughly documented accounts of daily life from antiquity. Deir el Medina is not just another ruin, it is a living museum, a place where we can hear the voices of ancient Egyptians, understand their society, and appreciate the intricate details of a community that thrived over 3,000 years ago. Walking through the ruins of Deir el Medina today, one can still sense the organized nature of the community. The village was not an organic settlement that grew over time. It was a planned town laid out on a clear grid. A long, straight street, just a few meters wide, runs down the center. On either side of this thoroughfare, houses were built in neat rows, sharing party walls like modern terrace houses. The entire settlement was enclosed by a thick mud brick wall. A single gate, guarded day and night, controlled all entry and exit. This design speaks of purpose and control, a self-contained world created specifically for the pharaoh's elite workers. The houses themselves were remarkably uniform. A typical home consisted of 4 main rooms. The first room served as a public reception area. Beyond this lay private living quarters. At the very back was the kitchen, and a staircase leading to the roof. Life was lived both indoors and outdoors. The flat rooftops were essential living spaces used for sleeping during the hot summer months, for catching the evening breeze, and for storage. The narrow street was an extension of the home, where neighbours socialized and children played. Daily life in Deir el Medina was governed by a strict and predictable rhythm. The workforce was divided into 2 teams, or gangs, the left side and the right side, mirroring the 2 sides of a royal tomb. Each gang was led by a foreman. The men worked an 8-day week, followed by 2 days of rest. Their workday began at dawn. They walked from the village over the high pass to the Valley of the Kings. About an hour. They spent the day in the dark, stuffy tombs, carving and painting by flickering oil lamps. The work was highly specialized. Draftsmen, sculptors, painters. The men lived in temporary huts near the Valley of the Kings, returning to the village only for their 2-day weekend. Rest was for family, tending personal affairs and participating in village religious festivals. While the men were the official state employees, the women of Deir el Medina were the pillars of the community's domestic and economic life. With their husbands away, women were responsible for managing the household entirely on their own. Women enjoyed relatively high legal and social status. Records show they could own property, they could inherit, they could dispose of property in their own right, and they could bring lawsuits before the local court. Textile production was central. Women spun thread and wove linen cloth. Linen was a valuable commodity. Women could trade surplus cloth for necessities like extra food, pottery or services. Women also played a key role in religious life. They managed household shrines, made offerings to family ancestors, and kept protective gods like Bes and Tawere, associated with childbirth and home protection. In a small, enclosed community like Deir el Medina, disputes were inevitable. Most minor disagreements and civil cases were handled by a local council known as the Kenbet, composed of the leading men of the village. The legal ostraca give us a fascinating insight into the kinds of problems the villagers faced. The cases deal with everything from disputes over the ownership of a donkey to unpaid debts, theft of tools, and property inheritance arguments. The work of a tomb builder was physically demanding and often dangerous. The texts mention physicians and scorpion charmers. These treatments often combined practical medicine with magical spells. Life in the place of truth was not always peaceful. The most famous example of this is the series of labor strikes that occurred during the reign of Ramesses III. Their rations of grain were weeks overdue. Faced with starvation, the artisans took unprecedented action. The men laid down their tools and marched out of the village, towards the great mortuary temples. They staged a sit-in, shouting, "We are hungry." This was a bold and risky act of defiance. Their actions represent the first recorded strikes in human history. The decline of the New Kingdom brought other problems, most notably a wave of tomb robbing. Shockingly, the records show that some of the very men from Deir el Medina, those entrusted to guard the secrets of the necropolis, were involved in these crimes. This breakdown of order marks the beginning of the end for the village, a final, scandalous chapter in the life of this extraordinary community. Deir el Medina stands as a singular testament to the power of preservation. It is a time capsule that has gifted us an intimate and deeply human portrait of a community that thrived over 3 millennia ago. This combination allows us to move beyond the grand, impersonal narrative of pharaohs and pyramids. We see them not as a faceless workforce, but as individuals with names, families, and distinct personalities. We read their private letters, witness their legal disputes, and even learn of their health problems. This level of detail is unparalleled, offering a microcosm of New Kingdom society. We discover the vital roles played by women. We see state employees who were conscious of their rights, and a community that could govern and care for itself through its own local institutions. Ultimately, the story of Deir el Medina is a profound reminder that history is made not just by kings and conquerors, but by everyday people. In the dusty remains of their homes and the delicate script on a pottery shard, we find a connection that transcends time. Deir el Medina provides an invaluable window into the past, forever changing our view of the ancient world by showing us in vivid detail how ordinary people lived extraordinary lives. Imagine standing before a vast temple carved directly from a mountain. 4 colossal statues of a pharaoh, each over 60 feet high, stare out across the desert sands for eternity. One is broken, its massive head resting at its feet, a testament to time's relentless power. The entrance is a mysterious void between the giant's legs. This is the scene David Roberts painted in his work, The Great Temple of Abu Simbel, Nubia. When Europeans first saw it in the 1840s, it was like gazing at another world. They had read of ancient Egypt, but never with such dramatic reality. Roberts brought this lost world to life before the age of photography. His journey a monumental undertaking. David Roberts was born in Stockbridge, a suburb of Edinburgh, in 1796. His family were of humble means, his father a shoemaker. From a very young age he sketched on any surface he could find. At 12 he apprenticed to the decorator Gavin Bugo. Imitation stone, wood and marble, unglamorous, yet it taught texture and illusion. The theatre demanded speed, scale and drama, his priceless second apprenticeship. In London, at Drury Lane, his spectacular backdrops earned renown. Yet he longed for fine art, exhibiting architectural paintings. He joined sketching circles, befriended artists, including J.M.W. Turner, and fused precision with stage-like atmosphere. By the early 1830s, he yearned for subjects beyond Britain. Spain, less travelled, blended European and Moorish influences. In Granada, he sketched the Alhambra's delicate archways, tiled patterns and tranquil courtyards. Spain transformed his palette, warmer tones and dramatic light and shadow. A brief journey to Morocco gave first-hand glimpses of North African life. Markets, garments and prayer. He began adding people to place, figures animating architecture. The Spanish works were a sensation, proof there was a market for foreign scenes. These travels were a dress rehearsal, practical training for the far more ambitious journey to Egypt and the Holy Land. In August 1838, at 42, Roberts set sail for Alexandria, a self-funded professional mission to document ancient monuments. He entered remote, perilous regions of the Ottoman world, undaunted. He began to draw at once. He hired a cangia, boat and crew, his floating studio for months. With documents from Muhammad Ali Pasha, he gained rare access, even mosque interiors. He traced the Nile's rhythm, Giza to Luxor and Karnak, then to the Valley of the Kings. Pushing into Nubia, he reached Abu Simbel, its facade still half entombed in sand. 11 months of dawn to dusk toil in heat, storms and flies, then across Sinai to the Holy Land. He sailed home in 1839 with hundreds of detailed sketches and notes. After Egypt, he turned east, 1839, crossing Sinai toward the lands of Edom and Jordan, the pull of antiquity and the rumour of a rose-red city half as old as time. We enter the Siku, narrow, towering walls, rose sandstone veined like wood grain. Light filters down in ribbons, cool shadow, then sudden warmth. Footsteps and soft camel bells, a guide scarf flashes, a waterskin swings. Then, first glimpse, the treasury, Al-Khazneh, igniting at sunrise. Columns blaze, figures below turn small as seeds, scale made human. Roberts works on site, pencil and wash studies pressed to board, carvings traced with care, broken capitals noted, camel trains sketched at rest, Bedouin guides recorded in profile. He fixes the moment before the light climbs higher, stone breathing in gold. From these studies come paintings and later lithographs. The treasury, the monastery, Adir vast against the sky. The theatre cut from living rock, the street of facades stepping down the cliff. A warm palette, ochres and rose, meets stagecraft, sun and shadow placed like curtains. Elevations ring true. Ornament measured urns, dentils, niches. He threads life through stone, tents pitched in shade, waterskins dark with use, costume and gesture animating space. Wadi Musa's springs, the open vault of Wadi Rum, high plateaus, drifting cloud, a horizon that breathes. Before photography could travel here, these plates carried Petra outward, across drawing rooms and lecture halls. Romantic spectacle balanced with topography one could trust. Scholars marked details. Travellers dreamed routes. Publishers turned pages that felt like doorways. Together with his Egypt series, the Jordan works widened the map of wonder and the map of knowledge. And so, beyond the Nile, through rosestone and desert air, Roberts completes the circle, a world measured in light and line. From Petra, he moved west into Ottoman Palestine. Jerusalem at first light, walls resolving from shadow to stone. The dome of the rock takes the sun, metal bright above terraces and courts. In the old city he works as ever, board under arm, pencil and wash ready. Inscriptions, masonry joints, dress and market stalls are noted on the spot. Measured elevations and ornament set down with calm precision. Back in Britain, these views circulate in albums and on parlour tables. Plates of the Holy Land read as trustworthy records before photography is common. Romantic atmosphere held in place by accurate drawing. Northward to Damascus, souks and gates, arcades ribbed with timber, water channels threading shade. He paces spans, marks voussoirs and lintels, and catches the fall of cloth and gesture. Across Syria, the terrain gathers to a citadel, then opens at Palmyra. Colonnades run in long perspective. The tetrapolon hinges space. The Temple of Bel becomes a theatre of sun and shadow. Tiny figures give scale without spectacle. At Baalbek, late light turns amber on colossal blocks. Corinthian orders rise into quiet. Textures of bridles, baskets and fabric place the present within the antique frame. Lebanon's ridge and coast close the northern arc. These images form an atlas before the lens, clear, measured, humane, shaping a public understanding of the region. Then we turn south again. Aswan and the Nile receive the glow. And the journey returns to Egypt. Cairo, the river city, breathes. Feluccas tack beneath a forest of minarets. Lanes thread old Cairo's quarters. Evening haze softens the skyline as the Nile gathers light. We turn toward the Giza Plateau. The pyramids climb from a pale veil of air, plains catching sunlight, shadow measuring their mass with quiet authority. The Sphinx regards the desert with eroded calm. Tiny figures calibrate its scale. Guide, camel driver, a seated sketcher, human presence set against monumentality. Southward to Saqqara and Memphis. At the desert's edge, the step pyramid of Djoser lifts its terraces. Mastabas lie weathered and exact. Roberts notes joints, profiles, measured elevations, then washes them with atmosphere. Memphis survives in scattered stones and colossal fragments, yet on his pages they gain ground, proportion and presence. The Nile opens to Thebes, Luxor and Karnak. Ram-headed sphinxes marshal the approach. Pylons advance like gateways of time. Inside the hypostyle, columns soar, papyrus and palm transmuted to stone, reliefs held by raking light as dusk steadies the rhythm. Across the water, the Theban necropolis gathers under cliffs. Doorways to the valleys of the kings and queens puncture rock. Funerary quiet meets a changing sky. Cloud banks, blown grit and a low sun. Human traces keep the landscape lived. Bearers, guardians, a traveller at rest, gesture and task giving empathy without excess. Upper Egypt's temples unfold, Philae, Edfu, Komombo, Dendera. Islands and riverfronts, intact walls and twin sanctuaries, interiors where ceilings blossom with zodiacal blue. Fidelity where structure demands, softened where air must breathe. Into Nubia, the banks narrow to grandeur. Abu Simbel appears half entombed, sand lapping colossal knees, a fallen head near the threshold. Dawn and sunset studied across those faces, moments now altered. From field sketches to hand-coloured lithographs, Louis Hager renders with faithful care, turning journeys into armchair travel before the lens existed. These images became a trustworthy baseline. Sites moved, shored or changed, yet his measures endure. Architecture, weather and people speak together, and Egypt returns as a clear window, precise, humane, luminous, a lasting chapter in the wider legacy of David Roberts. In 1840, he returned with an artistic treasure trove. He partnered with F.G. Moon to sell a monumental publication by subscription. The plan? High-quality, hand-coloured lithographs, mass production with the artist's touch. The brilliant lithographer Louis Hug captured Roberts's tones and atmospheres with remarkable fidelity. The result, the Holy Land, Syria, Idumea, Arabia, Egypt and Nubia, volumes issued 1842-1849. It was an unprecedented success, subscribed to by Queen Victoria herself. Armchair travel for a new public. Stunning visuals with concise text drawn from his diaries. 247 lithographs, a cultural event that shaped how a generation visualized the landscapes of history and faith. Several Egyptian scenes became especially celebrated. An avenue of ram-headed sphinxes leads to the massive pylon. Light and shadow reveal crumbling majesty. Small figures measure the colossal architecture. Inside the hypostyle, a low view makes columns soar endlessly toward the sky. Sunlight slices through openings, carving hieroglyphs from darkness. Philae, the pearl of the Nile, reflected in calm water, bathed in a golden late-afternoon glow. At Giza, a distant sandstorm and hazy light lend mystery. The Sphinx, half-buried, the pyramids looming. By depicting changing weather, he evokes natural forces shaping the land across millennia. Egyptology was young. Hieroglyphs had only recently been deciphered. Few accurate visuals existed. Roberts's systematic survey changed that. The first coherent pictorial record, meticulous and wide-ranging, made for scholars and the public. His images became reference tools, the next best thing to being there. Topographical accuracy let scholars study plans, conditions and carvings as seen in the 1830s, a vital baseline as many sites have altered since. He recorded living Egypt, clothing, tools, animals within ancient settings. The volumes popularized Egypt's study, inspiring expeditions, museums and university chairs. Not a scholar by trade, he nonetheless helped build the field, a founding figure through art. His prints carried Egypt into parlours and lecture halls. Roberts served as archivist, a careful ledger of Egypt at a moment in time. Nature reshaped sites, wind, sand, and the annual Nile flood. Early digs could be rough, development encroached, so his drawings show temples before modern build-up, settings still legible. In the 20th century, Lower Nubia vanished beneath Lake Nasser. Whole sanctuaries were threatened. Some were saved. Abu Simbel and Philae lifted stone by stone, feats of engineering that spared their forms, if not their original horizons. Others departed entirely. The Temple of Dendur now stands in New York. Roberts froze a version of Egypt that no longer exists, an irreplaceable record, memory set in light and stone. Beyond prints, he translated field sketches into large exhibition oils. The Royal Academy was the arena for fame, reviews, and patrons. The oils were more theatrical, richer colour, sweeping compositions. He combined sketches and adjusted scenery for impact, hallmarks of Orientalism. Wealthy patrons paid handsomely for these visions of the East. Grand historical canvases drew huge crowds, public sensations. The house painter's son rose to acclaim, an emblematic Victorian success. Though Orientalism is now questioned, Roberts's art was grounded in first-hand travel and genuine wonder. After triumph, he never ceased to work or travel. He returned to European architecture, Venice's watery grandeur, London's monumental views, and as a full academician, exhibited annually, inspiring a generation. Esteemed publicly as a commissioner of the Great Exhibition, he kept his ambitions alive. He envisioned scenes of life along the Thames, an unfinished final project, still sketching, still observing, still refining. In November 1864, he suffered a stroke and died the same day, aged 68. He was buried at West Norwood, his legacy secure. He left thousands of drawings, watercolours and grand oils, an enduring record of a fading world. His art rests on superb draftsmanship, precision and perspective learned in trade and theatre, compositions arranged for maximum impact, human scale against monuments, an instant measure of vastness, stage-born lighting, brilliant sun and deep shadow-built drama and form, a warm Mediterranean palette, sun-bleached stone and dusty air, tactile surfaces, imitation marbles taught him material sensibility. Light tracing hieroglyphs, rough granite rendered with fidelity, accurate drawing, dramatic composition, masterful lighting, tactile detail, his images feel lived and true. Why does David Roberts still hold us? His legacy spans art, history and travel. He showed not only what Egypt looked like, but what it felt like. The hush before sunrise, sandstone warm to the touch, the desert breathing. Through his eye, place becomes experience. Before widespread photography, he fixed time, now altered by nature and people. He documented the now lost and the once hidden. His volumes fed Egyptology and popular understanding, bridging scholarship and public imagination. Pages turned and the ancient world opened. An adventurer with a draftsman's precision and a romantic soul, both record and art. Before the click of a camera, it took skill, courage and dedication to show us this ancient world. His legacy is written in stone and light, a timeless window onto Egypt. We look, and the desert grows quiet, waiting for our gaze. In the deserts of Egypt, a kingdom rose by the Nile, ruled by pharaohs seen as divine. But one man, Akhenaten, dared to defy the gods. He declared all gods false, worshipping only the Aten, the sun disk. His vision shattered tradition, forever changing Egypt's destiny. Akhenaten's revolution was not just of faith, but of art. He shattered centuries of tradition, replacing idealized pharaohs with deeply personal, almost alien images of himself. The Amarna style revealed the royal family in intimate human moments, radical for its time. Akhenaten's art remains a riddle, challenging the very idea of perfection. Akhenaten's reign lasted only 17 years. It was a brief, brilliant and chaotic period in Egypt's long history. After his death, the backlash was swift and ruthless. The powerful priests of the old gods, who had been cast out and stripped of their wealth, returned to power with a vengeance. They sought to erase every trace of the heretic king and his singular god from history. His temples were torn down, his statues were smashed, and his name was chiseled from monuments across the land. He was branded the enemy in official records, his memory systematically purged from the annals of Egypt. For nearly 3,000 years it was as if Akhenaten had never existed. His city, Akhenaten, modern-day Amarna, was abandoned to the desert sands, its secrets buried and forgotten. The pharaohs who followed, including his own son, Tutankhamun, participated in this campaign of damnation, restoring the old pantheon and turning their backs on the Aten. History was rewritten, and the king who dared to dream of one god vanished into the shadows. He became a ghost, a half-remembered nightmare in the story of Egypt. His revolution seemingly a complete and utter failure, swallowed by the desert. It was not until the 19th century that his story began to resurface. Archaeologists digging in the ruins of Amarna started to uncover the fragments of his lost world. They found the strange statues, the intimate family portraits, and the hymns to the sun god. Slowly, painstakingly, the puzzle of this forgotten pharaoh was pieced back together. The discovery sent shockwaves through the world of Egyptology and beyond. Here was a figure who seemed impossibly modern, a proponent of monotheism long before it became a dominant force in the Western world. He was a historical enigma. Today, Akhenaten remains one of history's most compelling and controversial figures. Was he a divinely inspired visionary, the world's first monotheist who was simply born ahead of his time? Or was he a despotic tyrant whose radical ideas plunged his empire into chaos and decline? His life continues to fuel intense debate among historians, archaeologists and theologians. His legacy is found not only in the sands of Egypt but also in modern culture, where he has been reimagined in operas, novels and films. The king who was so thoroughly erased from history now captivates the modern imagination more than ever before. Akhenaten, born Amenhotep, was a prince of Egypt's 18th dynasty, a time of great power and prosperity. His father, Pharaoh Amenhotep III, ruled during Egypt's zenith. The young prince grew up in Thebes, surrounded by luxury. His mother, Queen Tyre, was a powerful influence. After his brother's death, Amenhotep became the heir. The path to the throne lay open before him. This destiny would lead him to challenge the gods. The royal court of Thebes was the heart of Egypt's empire, alive with ceremony, power and intrigue. Here young Prince Amenhotep learned from the finest tutors, surrounded by priests, officials and foreign envoys. The powerful priesthood of Amun-Ra shaped his world, their influence rivaling the pharaoh's own. Amidst this grandeur, Amenhotep witnessed power struggles, and the seeds of his revolutionary faith were sown. The education of a future pharaoh was rigorous, blending statecraft, theology and military training. Amenhotep learned sacred texts, rituals and the art of rule, walking the halls of Karnak and Luxor. Yet, amid tradition, he developed a personal, spiritual curiosity, questioning the old gods and seeking a direct connection to the sun. A quiet revolution began within. As Prince Amenhotep came of age, Egypt was thriving, shaped by new ideas and international exchange. Inspired by his father's devotion to the sun god Aten and his mother Queen Tia's influence, the young prince envisioned a radical new path. Soon he would become Akhenaten, ready to transform Egypt forever. Upon his father's death, Amenhotep IV became pharaoh, ruling from Thebes and honouring Amun with grand rituals and building projects. Outwardly, he upheld tradition, but quietly his devotion shifted to the Aten. He built a temple to Aten beside Karnak, challenging the powerful priesthood of Amun. The stage was set for a dramatic clash between old gods and a new vision for Egypt. Nefertiti, whose name means "the beautiful one has come," was more than a queen. She was a partner in Akhenaten's religious revolution, wielding power and prominence rarely seen for royal wives. Her iconic bust made her the face of ancient Egypt, but her influence ran much deeper. Nefertiti was depicted as Akhenaten's equal, a divine counterpart and co-architect of the Atenist revolution. Their partnership, both intimate and powerful, changed Egypt forever. Akhenaten and Nefertiti's 6 daughters were central to the new faith, depicted in intimate family scenes as living proof of the Aten's blessing. The royal children, with their distinctive features, symbolized a new era, born into a world shaped by sun worship. Yet with no male heir by Nefertiti, Tutankhaten's mysterious parentage would shape the future, as the children of Aten presided over the end of their father's revolution. For millennia, Egypt's spiritual landscape was rich and complex, teeming with gods and goddesses who governed every aspect of existence. Gods like Ra, Osiris, Isis and Horus were central figures. The pharaoh was the chief high priest, the sole intermediary with the gods. This system, built on tradition, myth and ritual, was the bedrock of Egyptian civilization. At Akhenaten's birth, Amun-Ra was the most powerful deity, with immense wealth and political power. This deeply entrenched religious world was built on centuries of tradition. To challenge this system was to attack the foundation of Egyptian identity. In his 5th year, Pharaoh Amenhotep IV, later Akhenaten, abandoned Thebes, the sacred city of Amun-Ra, and built a new capital at Amarna. This was a radical rejection of Egypt's old gods and their powerful priesthood. Akhenaten focused worship on one god, the Aten, erasing the names and images of the old gods. This was both a political power play and a profound spiritual conviction, reshaping Egypt forever. At the heart of Akhenaten's revolution was his chosen deity, the Aten. The word Aten means the disk and refers to the sun. Akhenaten elevated the Aten to a universal creator god. The Aten had no human form, it was a solar orb. Each ray ended in a hand offering the Ankh, symbol of life. Its light touched every corner of creation. The Aten was a deity whose power was universal. Religion celebrated the single source of all light and life. Atenism, introduced by Akhenaten, was revolutionary for its exclusive worship of the Aten as the sole god. The pharaoh and his queen were the only intermediaries, removing the traditional priesthood. Temples were open to sunlight, reflecting a faith of light and openness. The afterlife was reimagined as awakening each day in the sun's rays, shifting focus to devotion in the present. Akhenaten carved out a unique role for himself in Atenism. He was the one and only prophet of the Aten. The Aten revealed its will only to Akhenaten. This made him the sole teacher of the new faith. He was the living word of his God on earth. To know the Aten, one first had to know Akhenaten. Worship of the god became linked with devotion to the king. The great hymn to the Aten cemented his position. Akhenaten's death left Atenism without its prophet. The entire structure was destined to collapse without him. Akhenaten chose a remote desert site and with astonishing speed built Akhenaten, a city for the sun god Aten. Tens of thousands of workers used small talatat blocks, raising temples and palaces in record time. At its heart stood the great Aten temple, open to the sun, filled with offering tables. Akhenaten's bold vision transformed Egypt, staking his dynasty's future on this desert city. Akhenaten's temple revolution was a bold upheaval. He closed Egypt's old temples, seizing their wealth to build his new city, Akhenaten, and open-air temples for the Aten. These new temples were roofless, flooded with sunlight, and open to all. Worship became a public spectacle, led by Akhenaten and Nefertiti, celebrating the Aten in the brilliant light of the sun. Atenism sparked a dramatic transformation in Egyptian art, breaking from centuries of tradition. Akhenaten demanded a new art for his new god, leading to the expressive Amarna style. Pharaohs were now shown with unique, unconventional features, defying old ideals. Art depicted intimate royal family moments, revealing a new humanity. This revolutionary style became a visual language for Akhenaten's faith, forever changing Egyptian art. Akhenaten's revolution shattered the power of Egypt's priesthood, closing temples and stripping priests of their influence. The nobility faced a choice: embrace Atenism and the king, or risk losing everything. Outwardly most conformed, but beneath the surface, old loyalties and resentments simmered, threatening the fragile new order. While the king and his court embraced Atenism, for ordinary Egyptians the change was disruptive. Their daily lives had revolved around local gods, amulets and household rituals. Akhenaten's reforms swept this away, leaving many spiritually lost. The new faith never truly replaced the old beliefs which endured quietly in homes across Egypt. While Akhenaten focused on his religious revolution, Egypt's vast empire began to unravel. Unlike his father, Amenhotep III, a master diplomat, Akhenaten neglected foreign affairs. The Hittites rose in the north, allies pleaded for help, but the pharaoh's silence was deafening. His inaction weakened Egypt, setting the stage for its decline. The Amarna letters, unearthed at Akhenaten, reveal a kingdom in crisis. Vassal kings like Ribhadda pleaded for help as Egyptian power faded and the Hittites advanced. Akhenaten, focused on his new city and spiritual vision, ignored their desperate cries. As he built the horizon of the Aten, his empire crumbled around him. The final years of Akhenaten's reign are shrouded in mystery. Was there a co-regency? Some evidence points to Smenkhkare, a shadowy figure who briefly shared the throne. Others believe Akhenaten's powerful wife Nefertiti ruled as co-pharaoh, possibly even disguised as a man. This period of shared rule marks a chaotic, uncertain chapter as Egypt's revolutionary dynasty began to unravel. In Akhenaten's final years, silence and sorrow shroud his reign. Isolated in Akhenaten, the pharaoh turned inward as his empire frayed and tragedy struck his family. The once brilliant light of the Aten faded, leaving only uncertainty and the shadow of a revolution that could not endure. The twilight of the Sun King had truly begun. In the 17th year of his reign, Akhenaten died in Akhenaten, his sacred city, at around 40 years old. The cause of his death remains a mystery. No records or inscriptions reveal his final days. His passing through Egypt into chaos, Atenism, built entirely around him, was left leaderless and adrift. The succession was confused. Smenkhkare briefly ruled, then the child, Tutankhaten, took the throne, surrounded by conservative advisors eager to restore the old ways. Akhenaten's death marked not just the end of a life, but the collapse of his radical vision. The forces of tradition surged back, ready to erase his legacy. The horizon of the Aten faded into darkness, and Egypt braced for a return to the old gods. Akhenaten's tomb, carved in the cliffs of Akhenaten, was a monument to his faith, adorned with images of the royal family worshipping the Aten. But soon after his death, the tomb was desecrated, not for gold, but to destroy his afterlife, smashing his sarcophagus and erasing his name. His mummy vanished, likely moved to Thebes and reburied in the anonymous tomb KV55, stripped of honour and ceremony. Modern DNA analysis confirms the remains in KV55 are Akhenaten's, cast out, hidden and condemned. His memory was systematically erased, his revolution buried for millennia. The heretic king's body and legacy were consigned to oblivion. With Akhenaten gone, power shifted to Ai and Horemheb, who swiftly reversed his revolution. Akhenaten was abandoned. The court returned to Thebes. Tutankhaten became Tutankhamun, publicly renouncing the Aten and restoring Amun. The royal family reclaimed the old gods, and a restoration stela declared Egypt's return to tradition. Temples reopened, priesthoods revived, and the wealth of Egypt flowed back to the ancient cults. Festivals and rituals returned, welcomed by a relieved populace. The brief experiment with monotheism ended. The old order was restored. Restoring the old gods wasn't enough. The new regime sought to erase Akhenaten entirely. His images and names were chiseled from monuments, his temples dismantled, and his reign omitted from king lists. Akhenaten was abandoned, its stones scavenged, its memory buried. For 3,000 years, Akhenaten vanished from history, his revolution swallowed by silence. Later, Egyptians knew nothing of the heretic king or his god. The old gods triumphed, and Akhenaten's legacy was annihilated. After Akhenaten's death, Egypt's new rulers restored tradition and military strength, erasing his reforms. His religious revolution collapsed. His city and art were abandoned, his policies blamed for chaos and weakness. The resilience of Egyptian tradition proved too great for one man's vision to overcome. Yet Akhenaten's attempt at monotheism was a bold leap, centuries ahead of its time. Though branded a failure and erased, his radical questions lingered, waiting to be rediscovered. The echo of his vision survived, dormant beneath the sands. Akhenaten's revolution transformed Egyptian art, shattering centuries of rigid tradition. He demanded realism and expressionism, depicting himself and his family with elongated features and intimate scenes. The Amarna style was a visual heresy, portraying the royal family as both divine and startlingly human. Scenes of affection replaced static formality, reflecting his new theology. Was this a theological statement, a reflection of his appearance, or both? The question endures. The art of Amarna remains a beautiful riddle, a testament to a mind that saw the world differently. The bizarre and distinctive way Akhenaten chose to have himself depicted has led to endless speculation about his physical health. Could the strange features seen in his statues and reliefs, the elongated head, the feminine hips, the pot belly, be symptoms of a medical condition? For decades, medical experts and Egyptologists have pored over the artistic evidence, proposing various diagnoses that could explain his unusual physique. These theories attempt to find a scientific explanation for a style that might otherwise be seen as a purely artistic or religious choice, suggesting the art of Amarna was not just expressionism, but a form of realism. One of the most persistent theories is that Akhenaten suffered from a genetic disorder known as Marfan syndrome. This condition affects the body's connective tissue and can result in elongated limbs, a long face, and other skeletal abnormalities that bear a striking resemblance to the pharaoh's depictions. Another prominent hypothesis suggests he had Froehlich's syndrome, a disorder of the endocrine system that can cause obesity, underdeveloped genitals, and feminine fat distribution. Other proposed ailments include Klinefelter syndrome or aromatase excess syndrome, both of which involve hormonal imbalances that could potentially explain his androgynous appearance. These medical theories are fascinating, but they remain highly speculative and controversial. A key problem is that they rely entirely on artistic representations, which were themselves subject to stylistic convention. The Amarna style was applied not just to Akhenaten, but to his entire family, and even to members of his court, making it unlikely that they all shared the same genetic disorder. It's more probable that the art style was an ideological choice, exaggerating certain features to create a specific theological image. The king's unique body was a symbol, not just a set of symptoms to be diagnosed thousands of years later. The debate was seemingly put to rest by modern science. DNA analysis of the mummy found in tomb KV55, widely identified as Akhenaten, has so far failed to find conclusive evidence for Marfan syndrome or other related genetic conditions. While the skeleton does show an elongated skull, this could have been the result of artificial cranial deformation, a practice of intentionally shaping the head in infancy, or it could simply be a natural familial trait. Without definitive proof, the idea that Akhenaten suffered from a specific illness remains an intriguing but unproven theory, leaving the mystery of his appearance open to interpretation. Akhenaten's bold worship of Aten has led many to call him the world's first monotheist. His vision of a single universal God echoes in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. While direct links are debated, the parallels are striking. Akhenaten's story stands as a powerful early leap toward monotheism in human history. Akhenaten has become more than a historical figure. He's a modern myth. His story of rebellion, faith and tragedy inspires artists, writers and dreamers. From operas to novels, he's cast as hero, prophet or outcast. The heretic king's legacy endures, forever captivating the imagination. Akhenaten remains an enigma, visionary or tyrant, prophet or fanatic. His revolution at Amarna fascinates us, leaving only fragments and questions in the desert. Was he a poet-king inspired by the divine, or a ruler obsessed with power? The truth lies somewhere in between. His story endures, a haunting riddle on the horizon of history, forever challenging us to see the world anew. On the west bank of the Nile, opposite Luxor, lies the Theban necropolis, a city of the dead that has fascinated the world for centuries. Here, pharaohs of Egypt's new kingdom chose their final resting places, with monumental tombs and temples rising from the desert. Among these, one complex stands out for its preservation and dramatic history, Medinet Habu. Medinet Habu's heart is the mortuary temple of Ramesses III. Its towering pylons and decorated halls dominate the landscape. Built as a temple of millions of years, it was meant to secure the king's legacy and union with the gods. Its walls vividly recount Egypt's struggle against the Sea Peoples, mysterious raiders who threatened to plunge the world into chaos. Here, Rameses III is immortalized as the savior of Egypt, his victories carved in stone. The mortuary temple of Rameses III is the last monumental temple of the New Kingdom, a final statement of Egypt's power and artistry. Modelled after the Ramesseum, it was both a reassurance to his people and a warning to his enemies. By echoing his predecessor Rameses the Great, Rameses III claimed his place in a legacy of greatness. The temple stands as a bridge to Egypt's glorious past during a time of crisis. Medinet Habu's temple is unique for its fortress-like design, with double walls and a Syrian-style Migdal gate. Built during an age of turmoil, its defences reflect the anxieties of the era: famine, invasion and collapse. The reliefs show Rameses III defending Egypt from Sea Peoples and Libyan tribes. The temple was both sanctuary and stronghold, embodying the pharaoh's role as Egypt's protector. The temple's walls are a vast historical record, over 7,000 square meters of reliefs. They chronicle not just battles, but ceremonies and daily life, making Medinet Habu a treasure trove for Egyptologists. The Sea People's wars are depicted in detail, showing the chaos and heroism of Egypt's defense. Without these carvings, much of this pivotal history would be lost. The name Medinet Habu is layered with history. Arabic for City of Habu, possibly linked to a Coptic saint or the deified architect Amenhotep, son of Hapu. His cult's influence may have given the site its enduring name. Ironically, the temple of a warrior king may bear the name of a wise scribe and builder. Medinet Habu's identity reflects centuries of adaptation and memory. Before Rameses III, this land was sacred as Djemme, the site where creation myths placed the burial of the Ogdoad, 8 primordial gods. Early temples here honoured the creator god Amun, drawing royal patronage for centuries. Rameses III built his temple atop this holy ground, absorbing its ancient power. In doing so, he linked his legacy to the very origins of creation and renewal. For centuries, Medinet Habu was buried and forgotten, until Napoleon's expedition brought it to light. Artist Vivant Denon was among the first Europeans to document its grandeur, sketching its ruins and reliefs. His work revealed the temple's scale and artistry to Europe, sparking new fascination with ancient Egypt. Denon's illustrations became the world's first glimpse of this lost masterpiece. Decades later, Jean-François Champollion, who deciphered hieroglyphs, visited Medinet Habu. He could finally read the temple's inscriptions, identifying Rameses III and the stories of the Sea Peoples. With Champollion, the temple's silent walls became a living historical narrative. Medinet Habu's voice was restored after millennia of silence. The approach to the temple is pure pharaonic propaganda. Colossal pylons show Rameses III smiting his enemies. Inside, the first court features Osiris statues of the king, symbolizing his divine and eternal role. The royal palace connects directly to the temple, merging the king's earthly and divine identities. From the window of appearances, the pharaoh addressed his people, blending power and piety. Medinet Habu remains a testament to the enduring might and mystery of ancient Egypt. The second pylon of Medinet Habu marks the gateway to the temple's Sacred Heart. Stepping through, you enter the second court, where the atmosphere shifts to religious solemnity. This perfectly preserved peristyle court, surrounded by colonnades, feels secluded and sacred. The walls are alive with vibrant reliefs, depicting grand religious festivals and processions. Beyond lies the hypostyle hall, its massive columns evoking awe. As you move deeper, the temple narrows and darkens, drawing you closer to the divine. Medinet Habu's walls are more than architecture. They're a vivid chronicle of history. The northern wall's dramatic reliefs show Rameses III's epic battle against the Sea Peoples. These scenes are breathtaking in detail and scope. We see Egyptian soldiers, fierce battles, and the only large-scale sea battle from the New Kingdom. Artists carefully depicted the Sea Peoples like the feathered Peliset and horned Shurden. Without these reliefs, our knowledge of this pivotal moment would be almost lost. Attached directly to the southern wall of the Mortuary temple's first court lies the faint footprint of a building that served a very different purpose, the royal palace of Ramesses III. While only the low stone foundations remain today, they map out a complex that was once a vibrant centre of courtly life. This was the pharaoh's official residence when he was in Thebes, a place for ceremony, administration, and personal relaxation. Its direct connection to the temple was highly symbolic, creating a seamless link between the king's mortal, administrative role and his divine, eternal persona. From here, he could move between his worldly duties and his sacred obligations without ever leaving the sanctity of the fortified enclosure, a physical representation of his dual nature. The palace was constructed primarily of mud brick, which well explains its poor state of preservation compared to the stone temple it adjoined. However, archaeological excavations have revealed a great deal about its layout and function. It contained audience halls, private apartments for the royal family, bathrooms and bedrooms. A key feature was the window of appearances, a raised balcony that opened into the temple's first court. From this window, the pharaoh would appear before his subjects, soldiers and courtiers gathered below. It was a stage for the pageantry of kingship, a place from which Rameses III could bestow honours upon loyal officials and display the spoils of war, reinforcing his status as the supreme and generous ruler of the land of Egypt. Just outside the eastern high gate of the main enclosure lie a series of small, beautifully decorated chapels that add another important historical layer to the site. These are the Sait chapels, which served as the tombs for the gods' wives of Amun from the 25th and 26th dynasties, a period centuries after Rameses III. These powerful women were high priestesses of the Amun cult who held immense religious and political authority in Thebes. Figures like Amenerdes I, Shepenwepet II, and Nitocris I chose to be buried here to be close to the sacred ground of Djemme and the primeval gods, continuing the site's tradition as a place of immense spiritual gravity and prestige for Egypt's elite. These tomb chapels are exquisite examples of the art and architecture of the late period, which often looked back to older styles for inspiration. They are like miniature temples, complete with their own courtyards, offering halls and burial chambers. The quality of the relief carving is exceptionally fine, showcasing a delicate and precise style that stands in contrast to the bolder work of Rameses III's era. The survival of these chapels demonstrates that Medinet Habu remained a focal point for worship and elite burial long after the New Kingdom had ended. It was a place whose sanctity and importance endured through the changing fortunes of dynasties, continually attracting the powerful and pious to its hallowed ground. The story of Medinet Habu does not end with the fall of the pharaohs or the burials of the high priestesses. As the ancient Egyptian religion waned, a new faith began to spread across the Nile Valley Christianity. During the Coptic period, from roughly the 4th to the 7th centuries AD, the massive fortified enclosure of Rameses III's temple offered a perfect sanctuary. Its high walls provided security in an often unstable world, and its expansive courts and halls offered ready-made spaces for a new community to inhabit. The site, once known as Jemme, became a thriving Coptic town, one of the most significant Christian centres in the Theban region. The ancient temple was given a new lease on life, its purpose radically transformed. This later settlement left a profound mark on the monument. The residents built their mud brick houses and workshops directly within the temple's courtyards, their simple dwellings leaning against the colossal hieroglyph-covered walls. Soot from their cooking fires blackened the ceilings of ancient halls, and doorways were cut into sacred chapels. Most dramatically, the great second court, the Court of the Feasts, was converted into a large Christian basilica. Columns were rearranged and an altar was erected. The vibrant reliefs depicting pharaonic festivals were covered over with plaster and painted with images of Christian saints, a powerful symbol of one world being built directly upon the foundations of another, a new sacred narrative overwriting the old one. Medinet Habu is far more than a collection of ancient ruins. It is a living chronicle of human history, where echoes of empires and faiths converge. Its story begins on a sacred mound, finds power in the ambition of Rameses III, and endures through centuries of change. The Mortuary temple stands as a defiant roar from the New Kingdom, its walls preserving the dramatic saga of the Sea Peoples and the Pharaoh's legacy. Here we walk the same processional paths as the ancients, surrounded by stories carved in stone. Medinet Habu's layers, from pharaohs to Coptic Christians, reveal a place never abandoned, always repurposed. Its legacy is survival of a kingdom, a king's name, and a sacred ground that endures as a silent witness to the rise and fall of civilizations. Today, Medinet Habu inspires as a timeless monument to the resilience of the human spirit, a story written in stone for the world to read. In the grand tapestry of ancient Egyptian history, a few names shine with an exceptional brilliance, casting long shadows across the millennia. One such name is Sneferu. He was a monarch who stood at the very beginning of what many consider Egypt's golden age. As the first pharaoh of the Fourth Dynasty, a period of unprecedented peace and prosperity, Sneferu's reign marked a pivotal moment. It was a time of immense cultural and architectural transformation. His rule laid the very foundations upon which his successors would build, creating a legacy that would echo through eternity. The name Sneferu itself offers a window into the character of the king and the values of his era. In the ancient Egyptian language, his name translates to "he of beauty," or "to make beautiful." This was not merely a title, but a declaration of intent, a mission statement for his reign. Sneferu sought to bring perfection and order, ma'at, to the world around him. This ambition showed up in administration and governance, and most spectacularly in the colossal stone monuments he commissioned. His reign heralded the start of the Fourth Dynasty, a lineage of kings who would oversee the zenith of the Old Kingdom. This period is remembered for monumental construction, especially the Great Pyramids. Sneferu was the patriarch of this dynasty of giants. He was the father of Khufu, the builder of the Great Pyramid of Giza. But before Khufu could build his wonder, Sneferu had to master pyramid building first. He embarked on a journey of trial and error on an astonishing scale. In this exploration of Sneferu's life, we will journey back over 4,500 years. We will uncover the story of the man behind the monuments. We will examine his family. We will trace his rise to power. We will estimate the length of his influential reign. We will delve into the architectural evolution under his watch. Maidum, the bent pyramid, the red pyramid. We will also investigate his foreign policies. We will examine his economic strategies and how he financed these feats, and how he secured Egypt's place as a dominant power in the ancient world. Before Sneferu, the royal tomb of a pharaoh was typically a step pyramid. The most famous example is the step pyramid of Djoser at Saqqara, designed by the brilliant architect Imhotep. This earlier structure was essentially a series of stacked mastabas, rectangular tombs, one on top of the other, creating a stairway to the heavens. While revolutionary, it was not the smooth geometric shape we associate with the classic pyramid. Sneferu inherited this tradition but was not content to simply replicate the past. He harboured a far grander vision that would require immense resources and daring innovation. His ambition? To create a true, smooth-sided pyramid. To be a perfect gleaming structure representing the primordial mound and the sun god Ra. This was a monumental challenge in design and in logistics. No one had attempted such a feat before. It demanded rethinking construction, starting with quarrying, transporting massive stone blocks, calculating precise angles for stability. Sneferu's reign became a laboratory of architectural experimentation, successes, failures. Throughout this documentary, we will examine his building program. We begin at Maidum, an existing step pyramid transformed, possibly catastrophically collapsed. Then to Dashur, the royal necropolis, the bent pyramid, a visible change in engineering plans midway through construction. Builders grappling with structural instability. Finally, the Red Pyramid, his ultimate masterpiece. The world's first successful, true, smooth-sided pyramid. A testament to Sneferu's persistence and decades of architectural evolution. It secured his legacy. It provided the blueprint for his son Khufu to build the Great Pyramid of Giza. Join us as we piece together the story of Sneferu, the king who learned from his mistakes and perfected the pyramid. Sneferu's path to becoming the ruler of the two lands was not a straightforward inheritance. He was not the direct offspring of his predecessor, Huni, the last king of the Third Dynasty. Instead, his legitimacy came through a strategic marriage. He married Hetepheres III, believed to be a daughter of Huni. This union served as a crucial bridge between the old dynasty and the new, ensuring a stable transition. By marrying a royal princess, Sneferu, with obscure parentage, linked himself to the divine bloodline and cemented his claim. His rise began the Fourth Dynasty, an era of power, wealth and architectural grandeur. He didn't just inherit a kingdom, he inaugurated an era. His reign centralized power and created an efficient administration to mobilize resources and manpower. He established a new court and necropolis at Dashur, leaving the old centers at Saqqara and Maidum. The move signaled a fresh start and a break from Third Dynasty traditions. Sneferu reshaped Egypt. He used ideology and architecture to express royal authority. Stability and prosperity were means to a grander goal. He projected the pharaoh as a divine, living god, absolute and eternal. That vision was recorded in papyrus scrolls and more visibly in millions of tons of limestone, monuments to his ambition and piety for millennia to come. Determining the exact length of Sneferu's reign is a challenge. The Turin King list credits Sneferu with a reign of 24 years. For many years, this was the accepted length. However, more recent discoveries have led many experts to believe that Sneferu ruled for much longer. Inscriptions found at his Red Pyramid at Dashur mention the year of the 15th occasion of the cattle count. If this count occurred every 2 years, the 15th count would correspond to the 30th year of his reign, providing a more plausible window for his extensive building projects. Today, many scholars propose a reign of at least 30 years, with some suggesting it could have extended to as long as 48 years. Sneferu's family life was central to the stability. His principal wife was Queen Hetepheres I. The magnificent and beautifully preserved funerary equipment found within her tomb offers a breathtaking glimpse into the wealth and craftsmanship of Sneferu's court. Sneferu fathered a significant number of children. Many of his sons were appointed to the highest offices. The twin statues of Rahotep and his wife Nofret are renowned for their lifelike appearance, with inlaid crystal eyes that seem to gaze out across the millennia. The succession of a pharaoh was a matter of supreme importance. The heir became Khufu. Khufu was Sneferu's son with his principal queen, Hetepheres I. That parentage gave Khufu an unimpeachable claim to the throne. Growing up, Khufu was immersed in monumental construction culture. He witnessed immense logistical challenges. He saw engineering dilemmas. He saw the triumphs of Sneferu's projects. Sneferu had done the hard experimentation. Sneferu provided the perfected blueprint for a true pyramid. He literally and figuratively laid the foundation for the Great Pyramid of Giza. Sneferu's architectural journey began at Maidum. A mysterious, dramatic structure dominates the desert. The Maidum pyramid today looks like a colossal stone tower ringed by a mountain of rubble and sand. It likely began as a step pyramid by Huni. Sneferu took over and enlarged it, then attempted to fill the steps with packing stones and encase it in polished Tura limestone. But something went terribly wrong at Maidum. One of the leading theories points to a fundamental design flaw. They built the outer casing on an unstable foundation of sand. This structural instability would have been a disaster waiting to happen. Whatever the true cause and timing, Maidum was a failure, but it was a crucial failure from which Sneferu would learn important lessons. It was the first major experiment in learning how to build a perfect pyramid. Having learned from the disaster at Maidum, Sneferu moved his building operations north to Dashur. Here he began his second great pyramid, the Bent Pyramid. This pyramid is unique for its distinctive change in angle partway up its height. The lower section rises at a steep and ambitious angle of 54 degrees. However, about halfway up, the builders made a sudden and dramatic change. The angle of incline was abruptly reduced to a much safer and more gentle 43 degrees. The most widely accepted theory is that the steep initial angle was proving to be structurally unstable. Cracks likely began to appear in the walls. Faced with the very real possibility of a second collapse, the architects made the pragmatic decision to reduce the angle. The bent pyramid is remarkable because it is one of the best preserved pyramids, retaining a large portion of its original polished limestone casing. This gives us a fantastic impression of how these ancient monuments would have originally looked. After the near failure of the bent pyramid, Sneferu was not deterred. He immediately commissioned a third and final great pyramid. The Red Pyramid would be the culmination of his life's work. For the Red Pyramid, they chose a safe, shallow angle of 43 degrees from the start, the same successful angle used for the bent pyramid's top portion. That conservative angle ensured incredible stability. The Red Pyramid rises to a height of 105 meters, making it the third largest pyramid in Egypt. It is surpassed only by the Pyramid of Khufu and by the Pyramid of Khafre. Its construction represents the moment engineers finally mastered true pyramid building. The Red Pyramid is a testament to Sneferu's persistence. It was the world's first successful, large-scale, smooth-sided, true pyramid, and it became Sneferu's final resting place. A pharaoh's duty extended far beyond monumental construction. It was about maintaining Ma'at, the divine order. That included protecting Egypt's borders. Sneferu's reign was marked by assertive foreign policy. The Palermo stone records that Sneferu launched a major campaign against the Libyans. The Palermo stone gives numbers. Sneferu's armies captured 1,100 prisoners and 13,100 head of cattle. To the south lay Nubia, rich in gold, exotic goods and manpower. Sneferu also campaigned south to secure those resources. The campaign established Egyptian dominance over Lower Nubia and opened trade and extraction of wealth. Beyond military campaigns, Sneferu's foreign policy was heavily focused on trade. To solve this, Sneferu looked north to the Levant. The Palermo stone records that the king dispatched a fleet of 40 ships filled with cedar wood. Sneferu also fostered expeditions to the Sinai Peninsula. The Sinai was rich in valuable minerals, particularly turquoise and copper. Inscriptions bearing Sneferu's name have been found at Wadi Maghare, show the pharaoh smiting an enemy, symbolizing his dominion over the region. The Egyptian economy was a highly centralized command economy, a redistributive economy. A vast bureaucracy of scribes and officials meticulously recorded agricultural output. This collected wealth was the engine that powered the state. These were not slaves, but skilled craftsmen and rotational labourers compensated with rations. They were well fed, housed in purpose-built towns, and received medical care, indicating they were valued and essential. In the final analysis, Sneferu's reign stands as a monumental turning point. He was more than just a builder of pyramids, he was the architect of an era. His legacy is etched not only in the millions of tons of stone he commanded, but also in the very fabric of the Fourth Dynasty's power and prosperity. Unlike many pharaohs who were feared, Sneferu was remembered fondly by later generations as a benign and wise ruler. His reign was looked back upon as a time of greatness and benevolent authority. He bequeathed to his son, Khufu, not just a perfected pyramid design, but a kingdom at the absolute zenith of its strength. a wealthy, well-organized and powerful state ready to embark on the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza. He was the king who mastered the pyramid, the father of the most powerful dynasty of the Old Kingdom, and the visionary who laid the foundations upon which the very pinnacle of Egyptian civilization was built, securing his place as one of the most important and impressive pharaohs ever to rule the land of the Nile.